Recently, I had this feeling of dread when I was looking at the news and I was reading about ghost donors. This is a phenomenon that I believe James O'Keefe had a large part in uncovering, finding donors listed in the FEC's own records who made something like 15,000 donations to various political parties and candidates. I believe to organizations, not individuals. And this means they're giving 10, in one instance, a guy gave 10 donations every day for 4 years without missing a beat. Something doesn't make sense. And when you see this affecting our political system, you wonder how it is it's visible. How is it that you can go to the FEC, the public donation records, and you can see these clearly fraudulent donations using someone's name? I don't know. But it's scary when you think about it because it means that our system has been fake for some time, or at the very least in the past 10 years. Certainly many of you agree. The sense of dread was not just because politicians are getting these donations. It's because the system is about to collapse. And if we're now discovering these holes, if we've already had a 2016 cycle where they rejected the results of the election, a 2020 cycle where the results of the election were also rejected. I'm not here to say, who's right, who's wrong. We all know which side is probably wrong. We get it. My point is, you've got Democrats saying Trump is Russian and the election was stolen in 2020. Joe Biden stole the election. Certainly there are dirty games afoot. Me personally, you know my position. I think Donald Trump, no new wars. I can scream it to the high heavens. And so now I'm looking at 2024 and we see the majority of this country in the polls across the board, including Gen Z, are saying Donald Trump is the guy. Personally, I spoke with the Gen Z business owner just the other day who told me that he can't believe it, but, he's probably voting for Trump. He runs his own business and he can't afford anything. What's going on? And I said, I think it's the illegal immigration. I think illegal immigration is driving Gen Z to the right. And he told me that's probably it because these people are getting free money. They're being given free money. They're being given hotels. What's going on? Well, we've known this for some time, that the Biden administration was flying illegal immigrants into this country, but now we have the overt admission. The breaking news was that, we have this from Gazette.com, Biden secretly dumped 320,000 inadmissible illegal immigrants into U.S. cities. Interesting. Elon Musk says, the groundwork is being laid for something far worse than 9/11, after the Biden administration admitted flying 320,000 unvetted migrants into the U.S. has national security vulnerabilities. It's a terrifying headline. Now, Elon Musk saying it will blast it off in outer space. I can respect that. When Elon Musk speaks out as such a prominent individual, it does get these issues more screen time, which is important because we're seeing headlines based on the opinions of Elon Musk, despite the fact that you and I have been saying this for some time. So good. It's reaching that point. But something far worse than 9/11? I agree. Right now, you've got Macron doubling down, saying, this is the French president, boots on the ground in Ukraine, if we must. Russia is saying, we will use nukes. I'm paraphrasing, but we get the point. Macron said, we will not let Russia win, even if that means we put boots on the ground. Vladimir Putin said, are they insane? We have nuclear weapons and we will use them, or something to that effect. Something worse than 9/11. I hope not. But without vetting these individuals with a mass open border, they have laid the groundwork for something truly devastating. Democrats are screaming and crying that Republicans barred their border security bill, which is a lie. The bill in question was actually predominantly funding for Ukraine, Israel, and it had some border amnesty provisions. It would have given CBP the ability to adjudicate asylum claims without the courts. Now, one could argue this means they'd turn them away. Yeah, it means they'd bring them in and give them work permits. Why would the administration shift course? That's the terrifying reality of what we're currently looking at. This border security bill was an amnesty bill that would have increased the amount of individuals coming in. And then when it was blocked, the Democrats can now say it's Republicans who blocked it. So what happens? If there truly is going to be some kind of mass 9/11 event or something like that, well, the Democrats are going to come out and say, we tried. We begged the Republicans, please. And they said no. And Donald Trump did it to win an election. How dare he? Yeah. And maybe Elon Musk is completely right, because that's a scenario. Everybody's got their predictions, their theories about how it's going to go down this year. Like, what's going to happen? The election. Because certainly the Democrats are not going to just let Trump run and win. There was a shadow campaign, says Time magazine. Why wouldn't there be a shadow campaign in 2024? So what will it be? I don't know. Elon Musk took to his platform X early Tuesday and said the president's administration is importing voters and creating a national security threat for secretly allowing illegal immigrants into the country. It is highly probable that the groundwork is being laid for something far worse than 9/11, just a matter of time. The Tesla creator's comments come after a secret Biden program was exposed, where the administration admitted to flying 320,000 migrants into the U.S., but officials refused to say who was flown and to where. Lawyers for the administration's immigration agencies have claimed that revealing the locations of where these undocumented aliens are could create national security vulnerabilities. Right. The admission means that while record numbers of migrants were flowing over the country's southern border last year, the Biden White House was also directly transporting them into the country. The use of cell phone apps is allowed for the migrants' undetected arrival by air with no legal rights to enter the U.S. Yeah. It comes after a controversy over a 2022 transportation program in which the administration used taxpayer money to move migrants throughout the country on overnight flights. We know all this. And it gets worse. I want to play for you this clip before we get into the national security risks, World War III, Civil War, whatever. This clip of Dr. Phil on The View, I think, needs to be heard. And I always should make sure we have that audio configured. There we go.
The head of the union. I asked him straight up, kids are coming over the border with numbers written on them, phone numbers and addresses. Do we check those out? He said, well, we call them. Is it possible that we're sending them into known prostitution rings or sweatshops? He said, it's not possible. It is absolute. We are using American tax dollars to ship children into known prostitution and sweatshops.
Some children.
Well, who knows?
Okay.
We don't know. I said, are you...
So what kind of checking do they do? So
They call the number and say, do you know about this child? They say, yes. Will you receive them when they come? Yes. I said, is it possible that that's a prostitution ring? He said, we know enough to know that in a number of cases, it has turned out to be absolute sex ring. It has turned out to be an absolute sweatshop. I said, how is this possible?
Well, what did they do?
He said, it is happening.
What did they...
Sonny Hostin followed up again in the segment and asked if the federal government was involved and if they reached out to the Biden administration. You know, that right there, that revelation from Dr. Phil, that's terrifying. It's terrifying because there are people who know this is going on and they work for Customs and Border Protection. If I worked at a fast food restaurant, flipping burgers, and I found out that out the back door at the corporate headquarters, they were using the money we made to traffic children to sex rings, I would quit. That's just me. I don't, this is one of the most shocking stories, I think, that have come out in a long time. I want you to imagine what kind of person it takes to know that CBP is not only facilitating illegal immigration, human smuggling, but child sex trafficking. And there are individuals who work for the CBP who are saying, yeah, but not me. I just work for the organization and support them. I got news for you. This is how I described it. You work at a bar that's owned by the mafia. When the feds raid the mob and start arresting everybody, do you think they walk into that mob bar and say, you're just a silly old bartender. We have no beef with you. You're free to go. Laughable. They come in, they grab the bartender, smash him with a truncheon, throw him on the ground, cuff him, and then say, talk or go to prison. But I'm just a bartender, man. I don't know what's going on. You know something, and you better talk now. Why would, when, I don't know that Donald Trump does anything about it. I don't. But why would any of these CBP agents believe that they can work for an organization that is engaged in child sex trafficking at any level, and they would be exempt from retribution under the law. There is, let me put it this way. I don't know that there is a worse crime, or I should say a worse area of crime than child abuse, from the lightest to the most extreme. And the reason for it is this. If an individual commits murder if an adult man kills an adult man, that is a very, very serious and one of the worst crimes. But if individuals, organizations, or person are abusing children, that's worse. I believe that child exploitation is worse than murder. Why? Because these are the next generation of humans who will inherit the earth. And if they are traumatized, broken, and abused, it will expand the trauma and, like a prion disease, begin manipulating the proteins around it into collapse until the system can no longer survive. An individual being killed is bad, especially depending on who the individual is. A political leader can destabilize things. But corrupting the next generation destroys the system from the root and rips it to shreds like a time bomb. For CBP to knowingly do this, and they know, and for individuals to sit at a desk and be like, look, man, all I do is accounting for the child sex traffickers, and they won't quit. This is why I look at this and I'm just like, something bad is coming. Something bad is here. We knew that CBP was look, there are cartel members at the border with rifles handing off children and people they're smuggling. And CBP smiles and says, right this way, sir. Really? Would a human being not say, turn around? Now, of course, when Donald Trump tried to get to the bottom of these trafficking rings, the left claimed he was separating families. That's right. A man shows up with a little girl and she got a number written on her arm. And they're like, right this way, little girl, like, get away from this man. And the left goes, he's taking children from their families. I wonder about this. In response to Elon Musk, I meme, therefore I am, says, he was flying illegals not only from the border deeper into our country, but from other countries into the U.S. That's right. We've known for a while now that Joe Biden was trafficking. That's right. Trafficking children on these planes. And if the revelation now is that CBP knows many of these children are going to prostitution rings and sweatshops, that means the Biden administration has been facilitating child sex trafficking. That's not a question. It's a fact. Dr. Phil. He's on The View. This is not some right-wing guy talking to the head of CBP saying, we know this is happening. The Biden administration has been sending these children on planes into various parts of the country. It's not a conspiracy theory. So I don't know. I don't know where we go from here, man. It's wild. We had this law in Texas. Texas temporarily was granted the ability to arrest illegal immigrants entering the country, but the Supreme Court temporarily blocked it. They're going to be hearing what's going on. In response to Elon Musk's post about something worse than 9/11 coming, one individual linked to what's called the Cloward-Piven strategy. Interesting. From Wikipedia, the Cloward-Piven strategy is a political strategy outlined in 1966 by American sociologist and political activist Richard Cloward and Francis Fox Piven. It is the strategy of forcing political change leading to societal collapse through orchestrated crises. The Cloward-Piven strategy seeks to hasten the fall of capitalism by overloading the government bureaucracy with a flood of impossible demands, amassing massive unpayable national debt, and other methods such as unfettered immigration, thus pushing society into crisis and economic collapse. The fascinating thing about this strategy is that they understand that unfettered immigration will lead to economic collapse. Bernie Sanders said in 2015, open borders will make your nation poorer. We know it. And they're doing it all right now. And I have to wonder why. Well, I can only assume it's because they are intentionally destroying everything around us. In the meantime, I'd like to highlight, well, where's the, do we have the tweet up here? The other day, in a 9-0 ruling, the Supreme Court said you cannot remove Donald Trump from the ballot. And what do we get? Immediately, Jamie Raskin Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Eric Swalwell, and other Democrats begin to make a bill to declare January 6th an insurrection and to make Trump ineligible. Now, some people have argued that you can't do that, that when there's a clause, or basically the way the law works is, if a law goes into effect, it only begins from this point forward. So Donald Trump, who's already on the ballot, wouldn't be removed, but the next time a candidate is running, perhaps. And here's what I have to say. Jamie Raskin has more courage and zeal than the majority of the Republican Party. Democrats appear to be intentionally destroying this country. I would say many of them are literally intentionally destroying the country. You can watch them do it and see what they say. But many others just appear to be in on it. Republicans do nothing. I've sat down many Republicans on Timcast IRL, and I said, how come we have not gotten a May 29th commission? Why was there a January 6th commission, but no May 29th commission? And you know what they respond with? What's May 29th? Really? May 29th was the day that thousands of far leftists firebombed the White House, firebombed various areas of D.C., injuring hundreds, I should say 100 plus federal agents. And it was so shocking as they tore the barricades down in front of the White House, the president was forced into an emergency bunker, disrupting his official duties. Nothing. They called Trump Bunker Boy. They insulted him. They mocked and laughed at him as they set fire to St. John's Church. And Republicans don't even know what happened. Shocking. Now over at Wikipedia, they say Cloward and Piven's article is focused on forcing the Democratic Party, which in 1966 controlled the presidency in both houses of the United States Congress, to take federal action to help the poor. They stated that full enrollment of those eligible for welfare would produce bureaucratic disruption in welfare agencies and fiscal disruption in local and state governments that would deepen existing divisions among elements in the big city Democratic coalition. The remaining white middle class, working class ethnic groups, and the growing minority poor. To avoid a further weakening of that historic coalition, a national Democratic administration would be constrained to advance a federal solution to poverty that would override local welfare failures, local class and racial conflicts, and local revenue dilemmas. They wrote, the ultimate objective of this strategy, to wipe out poverty by establishing a guaranteed annual income, will be questioned by some, because the ideal of individual social and economic mobility has deep roots. Even activists seem reluctant to call for national programs to eliminate poverty by the outright redistribution of income. The fascinating thing is, they're outright saying the goal is to destroy this country and subvert capitalism. And they're explaining it the way you do it is everything the Democrats have been doing. Now, I think people like Swalwell, people like Schiff, they're not necessarily in on the plan. They're just mindless zombies who will do whatever they think earns them their brownie points. There are individuals in the deep state who are clearly corrupt political actors, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. This admission by the Biden administration, it makes me wonder. When immigration is already the top issue, Donald Trump is already the front runner, and it's appearing as though we are going to get a Trump victory. Why admit it? There are many theories and hypotheses about what's to come. I speculated several months ago that Biden will not be the nominee. There's no way he's going to have to drop out. Some speculated that by the end of March, Biden will not be the candidate. I don't know how. One theory I had is that Biden simply just has a heart attack on stage or something like that, collapses. Kamala Harris is, Gavin Newsom runs on stage, rolling up his sleeves, providing CPR and saving the president's life. Kamala Harris assumes the role of acting president. And when asked if she will seek an additional term, she says, I could not in good conscience try to run a re-election campaign in a time of crisis for this nation. I will lead this nation and I will let others run for the presidency. She gets to be the first female president, the first female minority president. Gavin Newsom takes Joe Biden's place. And that's how they are able to try and mount some kind of effort against Donald Trump. Gavin Newsom becomes the man who saved the president. He goes on TV, every station, and they say, you saved the president's life. What does that feel like? And Gavin Newsom says, I was just doing what I'm here to do. Anyone would have done the same. Now, I don't know. I have no idea what happens. But taking Joe Biden out of the election seems to be paramount if Democrats want to retain power. Although I got to tell you, I don't know. I really don't. Because when I talk to a lot of these young people, periodically, it does not seem like anything's going to change their mind. Donald Trump is the guy. They can't afford anything. The system is breaking and illegal immigration is putting a strain on them. And they're going to vote for Trump. Unless something happens. Nikki Haley won't bow out of the race, and we have to wonder why it is. Is there a reality in which something happens to Trump? He's an old man. And Nikki Haley is the only one left running? This is the challenge with Vivek Ramaswamy dropping out. Because he said initially he would not, because he does not want the race to fall into Haley versus Biden. If something were to happen to Trump, worried to go to prison or worse. But now you look at where we are, and unfortunately, it seems like that's the reality. If anything were to happen to Donald Trump, the safety net for Republicans is Nikki Haley. That's deep state. That's the uniparty establishment winning. And maybe Vivek was right. The real play here is Biden's not the candidate for the Democrats. Nikki Haley is. Donald Trump will be convicted, or they're hoping he will. And then Nikki Haley will be the only one left standing at the Republican convention. She will be the nominee, and you will get riots. I don't know what happens to this country if Nikki Haley wins. I don't see Republicans being happy with and accepting a Nikki Haley victory. I don't see Democrats accepting that either. I cannot envision an outcome to what's going on. I just can't see it. The one thing I can tell you, it'll certainly be interesting. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.